Hi everyone, I hope that you can all hear me all right and everyone has managed to join. Just first of all, welcome to everyone to our next in our series of Connecting Ideas webinars. I am Maria Ure, I'm Head of Marketing and Communications at Prince's Trust International. I'm delighted to welcome you all today. As an organisation who works with local partners and experts around the world, we're huge fans of sharing ideas and expertise, and are thankful to the many experts who've joined us thus far, and for those who are here today, as well as to all of you for listening in. Today we'll have presentations from 3 different organisations, followed by breakout sessions for more discussion. So a little bit of housekeeping, first of all. You'll all see a bar down the right-hand side if you've joined the main stage. Please click the Q&A part if you have any specific questions for any of our speakers. Though in this specific presentation there will not be time to answer, the team will collate and pass these on to the speakers who might be able to answer in the breakout sessions or after the event. If you do experience any technical issues and you need assistance, you can also message in the main chat section in the same location on the right-hand side, or alternatively email inquiries at princestrustinternational.org, inquiries with an E, and the team will be able to assist you. So a little about us, if you don't know, Prince's Trust International has been working with local partners around the world, developing programmes and interventions to help tackle the global crisis of youth unemployment since 2015. We were founded by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, and we build on over 4 decades of experience of youth programming in the UK and work to help young people to build their own futures. So today is about a topic of innovation in the community. COVID-19 has drastically changed the way that we work, connect and live, and it's presented us with a unique challenge for those of us in the youth sector to adapt, innovate and create delivery that can persist with the ever-changing restrictions and global and local health circumstances. And while so much as we've experienced time and time again, when a crisis hits, communities really are the backbone of society. And this webinar aims to show that we can harness the power of community and to showcase the ways that communities have come together to support one another and young people during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as I mentioned before, today, and thankfully you won't just be hearing from me, we're joined by a new product for Prince's Trust International. This was predominantly developed during the pandemic and is called VibeCheck, and she'll show how we've evolved and involved communities and local partners, local experts and young people in the creation of this, and our plans to further integrate communities in the future. Next up will be Gloria Jonathan, CEO of Barefoot College International. Barefoot College International works in 93 countries worldwide and works to increase economic equity by making vocational and educational opportunities accessible to women and girls from rural last mile communities. Gloria is going to highlight some of the key innovations that Barefoot College International made as a result of COVID-19 and the impact these had for communities, as well as the role that community itself played. Finally, we'll be joined by Sheila Ampamuza and Esther Makoma from Sava World, which is headquarters in Uganda. Sava World uses locally led and an innovative approach to end global poverty. They provide access to local solutions to employment, focusing on business skills with an environmental protection angle. And Esther and Gloria will highlight how Sava World has engaged young people during the pandemic, both online and offline. You will be now pleased to know that that is the end of my introduction, and we'll hear from the real experts. As I said, pop any questions in the side. I see that some people have been chatting already, that's fantastic. And at the end, I will just be able to let you know how you can join our breakout sessions to talk more. So first up, it is my delight to welcome my colleague Laura Botsford, who is Head of Digital and Design.
Hello, you can hear me now. Just give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen so that I can take you through a presentation. It's already giving me a slight issue. Sorry guys, 1 second. Okay, I'm going to try sharing my entire screen. Please forgive me because I'm not getting the option to share a window. Okay, hopefully this is now working. I'll just give it a second to confirm and then I'll start my presentation. Okay, so I'll start by introducing you to VibeCheck. VibeCheck is Prince's Trust International's first direct digital program, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit. But it is an automated WhatsApp-based service, and it builds skills for young people in their confidence, communication, managing feelings, and skills for self-employment. And I'll give you a little sneak peek of what that looks like. It's aimed at young people 18 to 30. We started the pilot in Barbados and we've just finished our first pilot in Ghana. So how it works is young people sign up to the service. They initiate a conversation on WhatsApp with VibeCheck. As you can see here, we've got VibeCheck Barbados. And then they go through and kind of navigate their way through the content, which is a course that kind of upskills them across modules in these different topic areas. We started, so our first prototype in Barbados was actually facilitated by a community moderator. So how it would work is she would send out content kind of every day that people would work through, and we've subsequently built it out on a couple of different platforms to allow it to be automated. So what you see here is the automated service. So a young person interacts in kind of a prescriptive manner. So they use trigger words and they navigate through by numbers, as you can see here, to be able to work their way through the content at their own pace and to allow us to kind of be able to scale the service so that hopefully, you know, we can reach many more people than would be possible if we had one person that was sending out this content instead. So what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about how we worked with our community to develop this first pilot and subsequent pilots and kind of our plans for involving them more in future iterations. So collaborating with our communities, how we worked with beneficiaries, partners and experts in the design of VibeCheck, and where we plan to do more next time. So, as I say, we started in Barbados and we have also now piloted in Ghana. Across both of those projects, I'm going to speak across both of them, we have worked with expert researchers to compile initial ethnographic research. So where kind of we haven't had a team base there, or we haven't been able to get there in some cases because of the pandemic, we've worked with researchers locally who've been able to compile that research for us. We surfaced the themes for VibeCheck, so the ones that I mentioned before: confidence, communication, managing feelings, managing money. They all came out of direct sessions with young people where we were trying to understand, you know, the factors that might inhibit them from finding employment or kind of going on to start their own self-employment, etc., and prioritizing the areas where we really felt we could develop those skills. And then we have a group of youth advisors. So we primarily contact them over WhatsApp. We have WhatsApp groups with them, but we've also been able to kind of facilitate workshops and research sessions with them too. They help shape the direction of VibeCheck. We've got a group in Barbados, a group in Ghana, and provide a feedback loop for us where we're able to kind of get almost instant feedback on different elements as and when we want to. We also have local creative agencies. So we've worked with local creative agencies in both instances to help us develop the initial brand, the visuals that we would need to, and the tone of voice for the service. And then a local community moderator. So as I mentioned, in Barbados, when we started, that person was actually sending our messages. Now it's automated, but we still have a local community moderator for each version of the service to interact with users where needed, to feedback on their usage habits, to pull out, you know, kind of questions or feedback points that are coming up there, and also to advise us again continually in how to shape our content, where we should develop things, where we should take things next, etc. They're kind of our representative on the ground and in the region. So our learnings from this, and I'll talk through these in a little bit more detail in the previous slides. So as I mentioned, this is our first direct digital program. So other programs that are delivered by Prince's Trust tend to be face-to-face. We work through partners, but this was our first time kind of developing a digital program that would, in theory, go out directly to young people, that we would be able to deliver ourselves. And how we started developing that is in Barbados. And we brought in creative agencies, we've brought in consultants to advise us on how to shape this, we've brought in developers and all kinds of different people, and that's taken us quite a long time. We've kind of taken a year to be able to get to where we are in the first pilots, and it was probably possible for us to have developed things quicker, or to get our initial tests out quicker if we maybe hadn't involved so many people from the very beginning. So we maybe would have found faster learnings, but we wouldn't have had such a high fidelity product as I kind of showed you there. And that takes me on to the next point. So testing small. I think a lot of the time when we're looking at developing a digital service or a digital program, we immediately kind of think forward to a digital prototype. So how do we prototype that program, that WhatsApp-based service, and going from there, and actually maybe dialing that back to think about how we could prototype or test certain things without immediately jumping to digital, because we don't have the digital capabilities or kind of an in-house development agency, for example. That meant having to outsource, whereas in future, one of the things that we will look at is, okay, before we make the leap to a digital prototype, what are some of the things that we could test before that, and that we're actually capable of producing ourselves before needing to pull in that expert kind of guidance. Finally, thinking about the whole ecosystem of the product or program. So with VibeCheck, we very much concentrated on what VibeCheck will be, how it will work, the content that will be on there, how young people will navigate it, how we make that engaging. And we've really put a lot of kind of effort into that, and we've got a very exciting product. And now what we're looking at is the wider ecosystem, actually. So how will people join VibeCheck, and all of the different ways that we can explore that, and that we can explore that with kind of our partners and our wider community as well, is a really important piece. And then what happens after VibeCheck? Where does VibeCheck fit for us in our larger kind of portfolio of programs, and all of those missing pieces? So I think in summary for us, when we're kind of looking at the digital program space, which is new for us, we've developed lots of things very quickly, and we've got a great program now, but actually we're sort of revisiting the beginning origins of it to say, okay, but now what's all of this kind of wider system going to look like, and how can we reach back out to our communities to support us in finding people who are going to benefit from VibeCheck, stewarding them, and actually where we want to take them after they finish the program, especially linking back in to our partners. So for the breakout session that I'll be involved in afterwards, these are a few of the things that I'm kind of going to be talking about, or hoping to talk about. So looking at how digital platforms could change your delivery, so what the opportunities are there, but also what are the trade-offs, and kind of what are the factors to be mindful of. That is the end of my presentation. I appreciate that was probably a lot quicker than it was intended to be, but we'll shave off a few minutes there, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much for that, Laura. And I think really interesting to hear from you how community can be sort of two things, both the community that use the product, but also the community we bring together to make the product. So looking forward to hearing more in your breakout session. Next, as I mentioned, we have Gloria Jonathan, who is CEO of Barefoot College International. So over to you, Gloria.
Thank you very much, Maria. I hope you can hear me okay.
I can, perfectly.
Okay, excellent. So hello to everybody. It's absolutely wonderful to be here at this webinar with Prince's Trust International. As Maria has shared, Barefoot College International is an organization that's working in most countries in the South, and we work with the rural communities across the world. Most of our work focuses on youth as well as women, and I'll be sharing with you a little bit of the work that we have been doing during the pandemic. I hope you can see my screen all right. Okay. So Barefoot College International, as I've mentioned, has worked with communities for many, many years now, many decades. And most of our work has been focused on education, creating skills in the communities, and vocational training opportunities. And when we say women and girls in communities, in most cases, women and girls tend to be women, especially the ones we work with, tend to be young women, because in rural communities, they marry young and then they have children young. And in many cases, by the time they are 35, they are grandmothers. So a lot of our work involves education, creating opportunities for them to have economic upliftment, leadership opportunities for the women, learning opportunities for children. We run schools in communities where children come to study at night. In most cases, they are girls. And we impact 14 of the 17 UN SDGs. Some of our work, as enumerated here, is around solar. Solar, we do training of women on solar equipment. They learn to fabricate it, install it, as well as repair all of the equipment themselves. Our work involves working with people who are semi-literate or illiterate. So this is a very specialized curriculum that is created for people who may not read and write. Our education involves training of teachers who come from rural communities. So they learn how to teach children in the age group of 6 to 14. There are schools that are set up which have digital solar equipment. So there is equipment that the children can use. We have solar powered projector that is used to teach these children in the evenings, generally 3 to 4 hours, by teachers from their own community. And then a number of livelihoods, not limited to honey, coffee, and creating of nutritional supplements specifically for malnutrition children and women that we call Super 5, and a number of other livelihoods that the women in communities have themselves come up with. We also work in health, focusing on women's health, but a number of other activities around WASH for children, for young people, and the water facilities in communities, management of rainwater in rural communities, as well as setting up water filtration systems. And as an organization, half of our staff come from rural communities themselves. So we are an organization that has half of us who are formally educated and come from maybe various cities, and then the other half are people from rural communities who are non-formally educated, and all of us work together to work in these various communities. Now, the communities we generally work with are marginalized, or many of them are also indigenous communities in Latin America, as well as in various parts of India. A quick snapshot of the impact in numbers, but qualitatively, the focus that we have is to create sustainable communities that have skill sets to build agency, confidence, and leadership among the women and the youth that come from these communities. So they don't have to depend on skills or expertise from the cities, but are able to drive development for themselves. So the COVID-19 pandemic has been a really difficult and traumatic time for everyone across the world. And as you know, with inequality and disparity, the ones who are impacted the worst are the weak and the poor. So rural communities in various parts of the world were impacted the worst. And with all of our work through our partners in India, as well as outside, as well as our own staff, there were a number of things that we decided we could do to support the communities as they try to get out of this. Some of the challenges that we faced were, one, lack of information. There was not enough information or awareness about exactly what the pandemic was, how does it impact us, what happens. There was a lot of fear around vaccination. There was a lot of stigma around reporting that you had COVID-19. There was fear around taking the test. And there were a lot of community organizations that we already work with that could see that the loss of livelihoods was a huge impact on the people, especially the young people. And there were very limited ways of how we could really help. So we tried to engage our networks. We have a network of the women that we have trained, the Solar Mamas group that are solar engineers and have already done a lot of work in their communities. Then we engaged our own young staff who went to the villages directly to provide information and provide support. And then we worked with our partner network, which is 32 partner organizations in India and a number of other offices that we have across the world. And then we engaged with other organizations that were doing COVID related work. So 50 plus organizations that were doing various COVID interventions, we partnered with them to see that the reach was wide and we were able to create as much impact as possible. So some of the things we did, as mentioned here, is to provide, of course, initially provide support in terms of relief material, masks, sanitizers, oximeters, more information about where people could find support, centers where they could find medical support, teleconsultations. So if they were not feeling well, they could make contact and try to get tested. And then various awareness sessions in the communities to talk about what the pandemic was really about, how could they get more information, how could they protect themselves, and to answer a number of questions that the various community people had. There was one part which we felt was very impactful. We found it to be very impactful, and it is something that came from the ground as well as from our staff. The twofold approach we used was to have IVR calls, where a call would be made with specific pieces of information. And then we had small bite-sized videos that had visuals on various information related to COVID-19. We had this information available in 11 Indian languages. We put it up on our YouTube page as well as sent it out through all of our community workers, our trained solar mamas, and our partners. And then people were both looking at it as well as able to share it with their family members and community members. So here's a snapshot of the impact. There was a lot of this material was created by the staff that we have, as well as in partnership with some other organizations. There were scripts written, all of the videos recorded. So it was quite a bit of intense work, but it is hugely impactful because without being able to use this technology option, it would have been nearly impossible to reach the number of people that we have managed to reach. The other aspect of our COVID support has been through our partner network, which works in various states in India as well as in various other countries. Most of them already have relationships in the communities and they could see a number of challenges. Some of them were the kind of counseling support that was required by people who had either had COVID, had family members who had COVID, or just had lost their livelihoods and didn't know what else was to come in the next 6 months or a year. So a number of such interventions through our ground partners we've been able to support. It ranges from increasing immunity in the communities, having information specifically for pregnant women, having information specifically for young people, how they could not only protect themselves, but also participate and create more awareness in their communities, as well as setting up counseling centers and being able to be available for people who either had trauma or required information. So communities, of course, have played a significant role, and as an organization, we are connected with communities through our various programs that we already do. And through the pandemic, all of our focus, in fact, most of our other work had come to a stop. All of our focus has been on the COVID interventions as well as things that we could do for the community. And our staff have, so we have a group of COVID champions. They have themselves been able to go out and interact with communities. So 65 villages very close to where our office is in rural Rajasthan have directly been touched by our COVID champions, and they continue to do that work at this point. So some of the challenges that we see, of course, is to access funding uh, for the work that we were doing has been challenging, because continuation of funding has been a challenge, and there has been a huge disruption in the way things were working earlier. The second is to continue the work that we need to do as well as to keep our staff safe. We focused very highly on making sure our staff have vaccination as well as safety, quarantine locations, and everything else as an organization that we could do. But it remains a challenge to find a balance between keeping our staff safe as well as ensuring we're able to be there for the communities we work in. The third, of course, is the various myths that perpetuate the lack of information that exists, and the fear and stigma that has been there, which we continue to tackle. We continue to try and combat that, and it's something we will need to continue to do for a period of time. So our education program during this time, in one way, had come to a stop. As you know, during the pandemic, the schools were closed and the children couldn't come to school. It was quite difficult to have to continue the education in terms of teaching them the new things that they had to learn. But our education team came up with two ways of managing this. One is to involve the parents in ensuring that the children's education continued. So feature phones as well as smartphones were used to share information that we could. And second, to create worksheets that could be given out to the children, which they could do on their own time, so they could continue using their time to study and not be completely cut off from their education altogether. So basically, communities are resilient. Women and young people are very resilient. And it has been an incredible time of not only hardship, but also courage, teamwork, and innovation. Because in the time that staff have dealt with the pandemic themselves, they've also come up with these incredible innovations, which we will continue in the communities. We're looking at converting a number of these interventions into long-term programs to look at how they could be run in the long term, and how it could be supported and expanded and scaled. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Maria. If you don't mind, we're going to keep you on for a second. Our other speakers have had a little bit of technical difficulty, which I'm sure that we can all sympathise with. I think we've all had come off mute and show your video or can't be connected during the last 18 months. For anyone who's listening, it would be really great during this time if you want to put any questions and type them out, then I'm happy to be able to ask Gloria whilst we're chatting here. Feel free to put them in the main chat rather than the Q&A section. That's fine. We'll also bring Laura Botsford, who spoke first, back on, and we can ask her some questions. But I suppose to kick off for me, I'd be really interested. You talked about sort of I think it was your solar mamas, correct me if I'm wrong, who you were kind of putting into the community to try and combat misinformation. What was it like for you as an organisation, sort of going from sort of teaching them skill and you sort of doing that to kind of asking them to go out and then teach other people? And what were the processes that you went through to sort of widen that community, I guess, of both your organisation, but then looking in the way how they became part of the wider community?
So, you know, the solar mamas, after they do their solar training, because energy and solar technology, or in fact, technology to a large extent is considered a man's domain. and you really don't expect women to be solar engineers or technicians setting up, home lighting systems and lighting up villages. It's something of an anomaly as it is. So they already are at a point where they have quite high confidence, and they already have a good standing in their communities because they are seen as people who have skills and are doing this good work. So it is, in fact, most of them are very, very excited about sharing information, and they take a lot of initiative. So it is not that much of a hardship. It was, in fact, really easy for us to connect with them and tell them that with the COVID pandemic, we'd like them to, help or disseminate as much information as they can. Most of them are super excited to do it. In fact, they have more questions about, what else can we do for their communities? Can we also get them medical support? Can we also answer these questions? So a lot of the interventions come from the questions the communities ask. They're kind of driving what interventions we would do. And the Solar Mamas are a huge part of that. So yes, it isn't too hard for us. They are great, really, and they are amazing in their communities.
That's fantastic, and really great to get that insight, and maybe something you can pick up on the sessions afterwards. I believe that we now have our other speakers, so thank you again, Gloria, for sharing those, and looking forward to hearing more of your session. I'm delighted to now introduce. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that you managed to come on. So we have Sheila Ampamusa and Esther Makoma from Sawa World, and I will leave you ladies to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sheila. I'm the country director of Sawa World, and here with me is Esther. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Esther Makoma, and I work as the monitoring and evaluation lead at Sawa World.
Awesome. So we'll be taking you through how we are engaging youth in such a time, and we're going to take you through how we're engaging marginalized youth during COVID-19 pandemic, with self-employment skills using online and offline tools. And before we do that, we'd like to tell you about Sawa World. Sawa World, what we solve is unemployment among youth living in poverty using a unique approach that uses local youth-initiated business skills that are eco-friendly, easy to learn, easy to start, and require low startup capital. Now we get these business skills and share them with other youth that are living in poverty in order for them to learn a business, make income, and transform their lives. So for this particular session, we wanted to share with you an example of the Ujana Coffee project. This was in support with the Lavazza Foundation, and we started implementing this project in 2019, in October 2019. And the main goal was income diversification for youth coffee farmers within 3 districts in Uganda. And as we know, COVID-19 happened in 2020. So as a team, we had to adapt. And what we did, we came up with a hybrid approach where we combined the online and offline tools in order to reach the youth that we had already started engaging. And so what we're going to do, Esther is going to take you through what our online tools were, and she'll also share with you what the offline learning tools were. But most importantly, she'll be sharing with you the lessons that we were able to learn while we engaged with the community and the youth.
Thank you so much, Sheila. So I'll pick it up from where Sheila stopped. We continue to use the online and offline learning tools to provide access to the income skills among the different youth in the different regions. So in the online tools, we created our Ujana Coffee project webpage. And on this page, we provided learning materials to different youth in different regions. So let's take a look at this webpage. Sorry. Okay, so I don't know if we can all see the web page.
Let me share it.
Okay.
There we go. Just a minute. Awesome. There it is.
All right, thank you so much, Sheila. So on this web page featured 4 key interfaces, and the first one was mainly about the web page, and this provides an overview about the project, and as well, as we scroll down, we see it share the uniqueness of some of our business skills and solutions we share with the different youth. Secondly, the webpage also entails the learning videos. These learning videos are short videos that provide a step-by-step process of making each of these income solutions. And these were also created in a local language that the youth in the different regions in the local areas of Uganda get to understand. Then we have the learning posters. So these learning posters provide a visual of the step-by-step of making each of the income solutions. So I'll just show you one of our learning poster, like the African earrings. So the African earrings provides a step-by-step right from the first step to the last step of how to make the African earrings, and we can easily even see the product of the African earrings. So these are the posters. Then the fourth is the learning manual. So this learning manual was an educational tool that we used to share with different youth in different locations. And this learning manual entails an inspirational story of the solution entrepreneur. It entails the income facts, sales tips, the potential challenges, and as you can see here, it also entails the learning video. So when you click, you can easily watch a learning video. So it has very many pages of each of the business skills that were created, and we can see here is a skill of coffee cupcakes. So moving away from the web page. So moving away from the web page, we also explore different learning tools like the social media platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, and YouTube. And these were mainly because from our data assessment at the start of the project, we identified that many youth who own smartphones are actually familiar with these platforms. That's why we use them to share the different income skills and different solution videos with the youth. So we also explored Zoom and Skype and SMSs, and these were mainly for the youth ambassadors and solution entrepreneurs to connect with them, since these were our main key players of this overall project. So now moving on to the offline tools, we work with the youth ambassadors. So the youth ambassadors were the young people living in these communities who own smartphones. So they helped us disseminate the different income skills, the videos of the income skills and the learning posters, as we had seen on the web page. They accessed them on their smartphones and shared them with different youth in their locations. So in fact, with this approach, we were able to reach 380 youth in just 1 month. So when the lockdown was uplifted, we also reached out to different youth in small group training sessions, and this was mainly to professional guidance and mentorship while they start their income skills. We also conducted refresher training sessions, and these were mainly to conduct the clarity on the income skills that have been learned from maybe the solution videos or posters. So these were mainly to share the clarity and review how it's going with the different small groups made. So M&E field visits were also conducted, and these were mainly to monitor the progress of the youth with the income skills, and for them to share their experiences after making income skills with us. And then lastly, we also embraced a vlogging approach. So this vlogging was mainly for the youth to share. We guided them and provided some additional guidance training on how to get a short video clip of maybe updates about how the skills are going on and share their successes with other youth. So we mainly use this as an inspiration to other youth outside there in order to motivate them to continue or start making the skills. So overall, from this approach, we learned that connectivity is really limited in the rural areas. And this was actually evident from the start in our assessment, where we identified from finding out how many people own maybe smartphones and have a stable network. We only noticed that only 30% on smartphones. So this was really a challenge. This is still limited, most especially in the local areas of Uganda. Then secondly, the youth ambassadors approach that I had earlier talked about of working with different youth champions in the different communities to share the skills with other youth was really a key approach, and it worked well for us. So this has also been carried on the current projects that we are working on, and it has really helped the youth ambassadors to share the skills with other youth and also supported on the sustainability of their businesses. And lastly, we also worked with a blended approach. The blended approach really, we learned that it works best of both the online and the offline tools, where the offline tools like the learning posters and the online tools like the learning posters and videos act as a reference, and then the offline of really meeting youth acts as mentorship guidance for them. So thank you so much. I'll hand it back to Sheila.
Thank you, Esther. So this part really is about connecting with you. Would love to hear your experience, how you were able to reach youth communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. We also love to hear if you have any questions about our work, and mainly the example that we used, Ujana Coffee Project. And yeah, look forward to connecting during the breakout session.
Thank you so much both for joining, and looking forward to discussing that more in the sessions. That now brings us to a close of our main presentation event. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you, first of all, to all of our speakers who've joined, particularly Sheila, Esther and Gloria. Hugely appreciate you joining us and being able to have these sessions and these webinars. It's great for everyone involved, I think, to be able to learn and ask questions. And that's why this kind of next session where we want you to go in and kind of have more conversation is so important. Great to hear everything, but also great to chat about it. So I think that I just want to give you a kind of what happens next. Down the left-hand side of your screen, you'll hopefully see just underneath the live stage where you are now, there's a section called Sessions. If you want to continue the conversation with any of our speakers today, there are 3 different sessions for each speaker. You can join one of these sessions. You can join just to view. You don't have to say anything, or you can view and just type some questions, or you can sort of get involved in terms of sharing your screen and asking questions directly. So please, we encourage you to do that and to ask more questions. And we'll follow up with an email anyway with all the details of our speakers today and their organisations. And just to thank you all for joining once again. If you want to attend more events like these or hear more about Prince's Trust International or people who you heard from today, you can join our mailing list on our website, which is princestrustinternational.org if you're not already on there, or follow us on our social media, which is at Prince's Trust International. You'll see that we've tagged the other organisations today, so you can follow and share things with them. So as I say, click into that session, find which one that you would like to engage with that's most appropriate for you. Thank you all for your time in joining today, and we look forward to having you all again soon at our next session. Thank you.